Well, hey, good morning. Why am I playing Led Zeppelin on this weird-looking guitar? It's Brian up here in Kingfield, Maine. Brian's Guitar Rehab and Customs, and this is a cool one. It's not quite for sale yet. I'm going to play with it for a little while, but this is a Giannini Craviola AWS-6. Legend has it Jimmy recorded the intro or part of Tangerine on a 12-string version of one of these. And there are pictures all over the interweb. If you Google Giannini Craviola, Jimmy Page, you'll see him playing it. You see Robert Plant doodling around on it. And a bunch of other people have had them. Bill Withers, I think, had one. A little bit about it. Tranquillo Giannini was an Italian immigrant to Brazil in 1900 with some luthier skills. And he decided to open up a factory in Sao Paulo. And the Giannini Guitar Company is alive to this day. If you Google search it, it's like Giannini.br for Brazil or something. But you'll find it. And they've got listings, and they still make a Craviola. And he started in 1900, and it stayed in the family, much like C.F. Martin. His nephew, Giorgio Giannini, took over the reins. And in 1969, he and a Brazilian guitar player were having lunch together and discussing the shape of guitars and how they're all the same and wouldn't it be fun to do something different. And I can just picture this scene. You got a couple of artistic guitar player guys sitting around the bar, and there's been some red Brazilian wine flowing, I'm sure, and whatever else they drink down there in Brazil. And I'm going to give a little disclaimer here. For any of my Italian immigrant Brazilian friends or people watching this video, I apologize if I'm in any way offensive and politically incorrect right here, but I'm about to try a little accent. So they're sitting around at the table, and one of them says, Giorgio says to his friend, we got to do something with the guitars and make them a little more interesting. And the guy says, hey, let's make us a lute. It's 1969. Everybody's into the Renaissance fairs. Let's make a lute. And Giorgio says, yeah, but the problem is with the lute, you got no place that would put it on your knee, and it slides off all the time. So they said, well, let's just draw this down on the other side. Apparently, these two guys were sitting around sketching shapes on napkins. And this is what they came up with. You think any alcohol was involved? It's possible. Anyway, I think it's a pretty cool thing. It's definitely got that, late 60s, 70s vibe. You can sort of picture Nancy Wilson of Heart playing one of these or something. Definitely Jimmy Page. And so I picked it up in rough shape. It needed some work. And I'll tell you a little bit about the guitar. This is a laminated guitar. The whole thing is laminate, spruce top laminate. Brazilian rosewood back and sides, laminated, but still, look at that Brazilian rosewood grain. It is incredible. It's pretty thin grain, and I'll tell you how I know. Ask me how I know. Well, when I was doing some finish sanding after doing the binding, I actually rubbed through one little section there. So there's a tiny piece of road rash on top. One of the flaws I've got listed. Spruce top, when I got it, had no bridge on it. The pinholes were really in rough shape, and it had a really bad belly bulge. Well, I started looking at that with the mirror inside, trying to figure out how I was going to get the bridge plate off. And then I realized I couldn't fit my hand in this sound hole. This D-shaped hole is small enough, I can't get a hand in there. So, off came the back. Peeled the binding, took the back off, got inside, pulled the bridge plate out, took the tone bar out of the bottom of the belly so that I could strap this thing with a big, huge, flat caul. I could clamp it down on a piece of granite. And with some steam applied and some warm water sponged in there every now and then, about 2 weeks of being pressed on granite, and she's got a flat top now. Not completely flat because flat tops all have a little radius, but this is about a 28-foot radius, and I know that because I used my radius dish when I redid the tone bar. And so it's got the same radius that a Martin would have right now, and it's flat. I spliced a piece of spruce in where the holes were all ripped up and shredded, so that's all nice and clean. And underneath it now has a hard rock maple 10th-inch thick bridge plate underneath that bridge. So it shouldn't do that again. I then flipped that tone bar over to the other side, so it's coming off of the treble side like a normal Martin pattern. I'm not quite sure why it came off of this side, but I'm more accustomed to seeing tone bars coming off the leg of the treble side. So I flipped it over, and I'm not unhappy with the results. While I was in there, I scalloped the lower legs of the braces, so this top should float a little bit better now. And I figured with that hard maple bridge plate, there wasn't much danger of this having any problem, especially since it's laminate wood anyway. I reset the neck, and then I glued the back on. Before I glued the back on, however, I decided, what this thing needs more than anything else, is it needs a pickup. I've got a K&K Pure Mini set up in there. I bet there are not too many 1970s Craviolas with pickups because a lot of people probably can't fit their hand into that sound hole. So it's got a K&K pickup. I then glued the back on. And when I did that, I took a look at the binding that I'd taken off, and the binding was kind of a cheap white wood that had been stained yellow. And I said, no, this thing needs some nice maple binding. And so it's got brand new flame maple binding all the way around. And then it was time to move on to the bridge. This thing had a footprint of a mustache bridge. There was no bridge on it when I got it. Well, I had a piece of Cocobolo lying around, so that's what I came up with. I really think it enhances the beauty of this funky looking guitar. That is some gorgeous flame grain on that, and look at that light colored spalt on the back of that Cocobolo. Really kind of matches the maple color of the binding itself. New pick guard went on it. New tuners. It had no tuners on it when I got it, so it now has some Martin. I think these are the ones made by Schaller back in about 97 or 98. These came off my old 000 when I put Waverleys on it. So it's got some really nice tuners. Neck reset came out beautifully. It's got a beautiful .080 inch low E, .065 on the high. Plenty of saddle left for adjustment in the future. Truss rod works, and the relief is set to .007 right now. So all in all, I think it's just a funky, cool guitar. And playing acoustically, with a little oomph. And boy, I keep coming up with songs that just sound Renaissance-y. Anyway, 1970 or so, Giannini Craviola AWS-6, neck reset, new tuners, new bridge, hard rock maple bridge plate, braces a little bit reworked. It's just a real conversation piece. Great gigging guitar, great open mic guitar. You'll definitely get people talking to you. And like we say, it's got a lute, but it's also got a thing for the knee down here, you know? So anyway, enough of that. Sorry again to all my Italian, Brazilian immigrant friends. Not for sale quite yet, but keep an eye out on my Reverb shop. It will be at some point. Thanks a lot for watching.